You know what would be a great double feature? I'm going to go with Eden Lake and Speak No Evil 2022. Let's review it. Speak No Evil stars Morten Burian, Sidzol Sam Coach, and is directed by Christian Tofdrup. What's up, guys? As many of you know, I reviewed the remake, the new adaptation of Speak No Evil, the American version, whatever you want to call it. And I like that movie, and it was based off of a Danish movie called Speak No Evil from 2022, which was only 2 years ago. When this movie came out, I guess it just came and went. I never even heard of it. I didn't hear any kind of chatter about the movie. The only time I heard chatter about the movie was when this new one was being marketed. And I have to say, the trailer for the James McAvoy movie might have been the most played trailer I have ever seen before any movie. And I think it's not really a good trailer because they give you a lot in terms of the movie. You know, they give you pretty much every beat. I don't like chronological trailers, and I think that's the growing trend these days. And I'm not going to pick on the new movie that much in terms of the trailer because I think there's just a formula to all trailers these days. And they all have that bop.
I have to go to bed. School day tomorrow.
I don't know if this trailer had that, but it seems like every other horror movie has to have that bop. You know, and it's like a rhythmic type thing, and it kind of like closing in. It's just the same formula, and they have to use like some popular song from 70s, 80s, 90s, whenever, kind of a reworked version of that song. And that's it. That's how you make a trailer these days, and it's getting kind of annoying. But this video is not about trailers. It's about the 2022 version of Speak No Evil. A lot of my friends, a lot of online forums and whatnot, I heard talking about the ending of this movie, the final act, and that it is completely different than this new version. This will be more of a spoiler discussion. All right, I'm not going to go like telling you every single spoiler, but I feel like in order for me to compare these two movies, I'm probably going to have to stumble upon some spoilers, especially in the last act. You know, without spoiling anything, I can tell you that the last act, it's darker. It's heavier than the last act in the American version. The American version is pretty much an Americanized type last act. We American moviegoers, we like a happy ending. We like movies where, you know, give us the worst of the worst all the way up until the very end. Levi is howling. I have to go get him. Hold on. And there is such a thing in the movie landscape where if we don't like what happens to characters in movies, that might make us not like the movie. It's almost removed from actually reviewing a movie. Is the movie good? Yes. Did I like the movie? No, because I didn't like what happened to the characters. And I get that. I understand that. And I'm probably going to admit that there's been a few movies where we don't get a happy ending, like Eden Lake, and you get angry. You get angry at the movie. Like, why did you do that? I loved these characters so much. To me, that's a good movie, actually, because what it's doing is it's making you feel something. When I go into any movie, I don't want to walk out of that movie feeling nothing. You know, even if I feel anger, like I literally was, I just did a video on Drumdums Xtra. Definitely check out that. My last video I posted on that, or one of the last videos, was about hating movies is important because hating is still an emotion, and I would rather leave a movie feeling something than feeling nothing. Yes, a movie still has to have all the ingredients of what we would call good movies. You know, good cinematography, good acting, all that stuff. Yeah, that definitely is a factor, and it is important. But at the end of the day, it's art. And how does art make you feel, right? Are you supposed to be happy at the end of every movie? Not necessarily. Now, many of you might not have seen my review for the new movie, so I'm going to give you a plot synopsis for this one as well, even though it's the same plot as the new movie, as it should be. You have two families, Bjorn and Louise, and they meet this eccentric couple, Patrick and Karen. Patrick and Karen, they take a liking to Bjorn and Louise, and they invite them to their cabin in the Netherlands. And so Bjorn and Louise, the rest of this movie, it takes place at the house of Patrick and Karen. Now, here's where I start, I guess, comparing the two movies plot-wise. Yes, the first two acts of this movie are almost identical, although there are some variations here. There are a few scenes that I like better that they added in this movie, and I think one of the most important scenes in the movie actually is there's a scene in the car between Bjorn and Patrick. And Patrick really just talking about himself and his fears, and he's tired of being, I guess a normal guy and mundane. And I don't remember that specific conversation in the new movie. I know there's definitely a scene in the car. There's just some dialogue there that really sends it home, the whole point of the movie, and really spelling out who Bjorn is as a character. I mentioned in the new movie that I don't think his name's Bjorn, I don't remember, but the guy that was the husband in that movie, he was pretty much a weak man. He didn't rise to the occasion. He was always afraid. And I felt myself less annoyed with Bjorn in this movie because he felt like just a normal everyday man. He didn't feel as weak as the other guy in that movie. So I guess I bought him more. But I think one of the main focuses of this movie is Bjorn. And I think the original really sends it home. He is probably the most important character in this movie. And because of his weakness, which is not really his fault, he's just a normal guy. He wasn't raised in the wilderness and taught survival and all that stuff. And I think that's the point of this movie. Kind of a message to all of us that most of us have never been in a position like this. Maybe 0.02% of you will be in a situation like this, so you don't know how you're going to react. And I did see a few complaints about how the couple at the end of this movie, they just pretty much gave themselves over. There wasn't much of a fight. And again, I think that was kind of the point of this movie. Is it believable that could happen? Absolutely, it's believable, especially when you have a family that has done this dozens of times. That pivotal scene in the movie where Bjorn walks into the attic and he sees countless photos. And I think that makes the ending of this movie more interesting. You could look at it as, what if we tell the story of one of those victims? That's a good way to look at this movie. Not that this is the last set of victims that we're able to overcome and kill. Yeah, that's the American version. But let's tell the story of family number 27 that didn't make it out. And I think when you look at this movie in that fashion, I think you'll enjoy it more. And you know what? I do think it's refreshing when you have darker endings, unhappy endings. I think more times than not in horror, we constantly get what we want. And I love movies that don't give us what we want. They give us the opposite of what we want, like Eden Lake. A lot of people were angry at Eden Lake. And I think from a psychological standpoint, that is an interesting thing to me, because again, it's all art. The great Wes Craven once, talking about Last House on the Left, he stated that in art, we often like to show the good side of life, but every now and then you have to show the opposite end of that spectrum. And when you look at the plot of Last House on the Left and how it is, even though you have somewhat of a final happy ending, there were deaths of good people in that movie, and there were scenes that were very uncomfortable. And I think that made that sort of happy ending that much better at the end of that movie. But I like those movies that they stay the course of just completely hitting you over the head with a rock, like this movie literally does at the end of the movie. And it's just brutal. This was an interesting experience because watching the American version first and knowing what was going to happen in this one, because I had heard a lot of people talk about it, that this has a darker ending. I didn't know exactly what was going to happen, but I knew it wasn't going to be a happy ending. I found myself, like, my heart beating along the way in the movie because I knew that this was not going to end well for this couple, and that kind of added some excitement to the experience. I think this movie does an even better job of really making you like the characters, the victims in this movie. And by the time they're killed, it is just brutal. We all love children, right? And seeing children hurt is just almost unforgivable to some viewers. And this movie does it twice. You see the scene where the father comes in and he sees the son drowning. You know, that kid that was trying to warn the family the whole way. And I thought that was more effective, actually, that after all that, he dies, and he dies in a fashion that he wasn't able to like put up a fight at all. And it's just tragic. So then later in the movie, I think it was brilliant to have the mother not know what was going on, but the father did know what was going on, and they were both in the same car with Patrick and Karen. That scene, there is so much tension, and it's only because of the dialogue and what we know. There's a moment where Louise says something to Patrick. Again, Louise does not know who Patrick and Karen really are. She doesn't know that they're murderers. And his response to her was, "Shut up." And her reaction to that was, "Excuse me?" And I loved that. I thought that was a genius little antidote to add to the script in this movie, having a character not know, and then that character's husband knowing. And so the husband, this is his fight or flight moment. This is his chance to shine. Okay, I know everything here. What can I do to save my family? And he fails. He can't do anything to save his family because Patrick and Karen, they've done this, so many times. And they're trained professionals at this point, right? And Bjorn is who Bjorn is. He's just an everyday man. He's never been in a situation like this. So is this more realistic? Absolutely it is. We wanted Bjorn to be able to stand up and kick ass. We wanted his wife Louise to be able to stand up and kick ass, much like Mackenzie Davis did in the American version. Oh my God, we loved Mackenzie Davis. She's kicking ass, right? But that's not always realistic. And that's what I loved about this movie.
Also, guys, I'm editing, and I have to mention this brilliant scene with Louise where after they try to escape, when they come back for the bunny, she lays out all the frustrations that she's having with this family. And again, I think that just helped to drive the point home, and it was really a great scene of tension just between the two families, and really showcasing the weakness of the father, because the father, he attempts to convey all the problems, but then he says, "Do you want to take this?" to Louise, and she really rises up. And this one scene showed her strength without her even having to, I guess, be physical like, say, Mackenzie Davis was in the other movie. It's showcasing how strong of a character she is without her having to do anything, just to speak.
My friend Jason from Sinister Cinema Reviews, he did not like this movie. He understood this movie. He knew the point of this movie. But he didn't like what was delivered at the end of the movie. And I think a lot of people share that view. But then you have other people that loved this movie because of the unapologetic nature of this. And I loved that about this movie. It really got under my skin and made me feel something. What a fabulous film. And just another testament of how great foreign films are and how they do not hold back. That's why I always try to push foreign films on people. And I'm pretty new to foreign films myself, only having watched them in the last decade. And boy, am I happy that I delved into these films. But to have to watch your wife and daughter struggle in the back seat and have to watch your daughter get her tongue cut off. You don't even have to show that. Just hearing it, just knowing it, you can feel the pain that father must be going through. And I think it almost would have been worse if they would have let the family live. But no, they don't. They make them literally strip down naked. And, what a degrading way to die, to have to go into that pit and then they are stoned to death. This is not stuff you see in American movies, not that often. But I'm glad the new movie is shining a light on the original movie. And I'm seeing a lot of people going back and watching this version. It's on Shudder now, so I urge you guys to check it out. And if you haven't seen it yet, you watched me spoil it anyway, so thank you for that. But I think even knowing what happens, because I pretty much knew what happened, I still was, floored by this movie. I think it's the better movie the more I think about it, and I'm giving this a Trapped on an Island. It is unapologetic, and I love that about it. So I urge you to check out Speak No Evil 2022 when you get a chance. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day. And on Fridays, we do Free For All Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums on my socials. Support me on Patreon. Buy me a coffee. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Drumdum out.